demography. Here demo means people and graphy means study. So the scientific study of population is known as demography. Here we have three parameters. What are they? First, distribution. Second, size. Third, composition. According to these three parameters, we study the population. So, now we have three important definition. First is crude birth rate. Second, crude death rate. And third is demographic gap, or it is also known as growth. So let's talk about one by one. Crude birth rate is the total number of births in a country in a year divided by total mid-year population. Mid-year population is the we calculate in half year. That is, in mid-year population is 1st of July. Then we multiply it by 1000. Then it will be the formula of crude birth rate. We can calculate by this formula. And the crude death rate is the total number of deaths upon total mid-year population, as I said, into 1000. So by this formula we can calculate the crude death rate. Here also mid-year population is 1 July. And in India, if we talk about India, the crude birth rate in India is 20.2, which is per 1000 of the mid-year population. And if we talk about crude death rate, which is 6.3 per 1000 of mid-year population. This is current status of India. Then the third definition comes is demographic gap or growth. It is the crude birth rate minus crude death rate. This minus this, we will get the demographic gap or the growth rate. So now we will go with the next topic. So the next is demographic cycle. Whenever new country is formed or the country is formed, it has to pass through 5 stages of demographic cycle, which is based on the CBR, crude birth rate, and CDR, crude death rate. So, what are the 5 stages of demographic cycle? Let us discuss. First is high stationary stage. This is first stage. Second is early expanding stage. Third is late expanding stage. And the fourth is low stationary stage. And the fifth is declining stage. So let's discuss one by one. Now we have, before we have discussed crude birth rate and crude death rate. Now we will apply this on the demographic cycle. When we talk about high stationary stage, in this stage crude birth rate will be high and crude death rate will also be high. So if high birth rate, high death rate, there will be stationary. Then if we talk about early expanding stage, in the early expanding stage crude birth rate will be high, but crude death rate starts decreasing. If death rate will be starting decreasing, so there will be population increasement, means there will be increase in the population. Then if we talk about late expanding stage, in the late expanding stage crude birth rate also starts decreasing. Birth rate starts decreasing and it is already decreasing. Okay. Then low stationary stage. Low stationary stage, in this the crude birth rate is also low and death rate is also low. So there will be stationary statistics in the population. Then comes the declining stage. In the declining stage, death rate CDR is so high, very high than the CBR. Death rate is very high than the CBR, then the country starts declining. The population starts declining in that population or the country. So these are the 5 stationary stages of the demographic cycle. Then India. If we talk about India, India is in late expanding stage. This is about India, late expanding stage. And if we talk about declining stage, the countries are Russia, Singapore, Germany, Japan. These are the countries of declining stage. So we will discuss the next is demographic gap. So demographic gap. If we talk about demographic gap, we have 5 stages. As I told, we will make one graph. 5 stages. High stationary stage. Then early expanding stage. Then late expanding stage. Then low stationary stage. Then declining stage. These are the 5 stages we have studied earlier in the few minutes before. Here we will make graph of crude birth rate and crude death rate. 1 minute, I'll use another pen so that it will be easy to understand. Crude birth rate, crude death rate. So, crude birth rate in high stationary stage is high. And death rate also high, as I told. And in early expanding stage, crude birth rate is also high, but death rate starts declining. And early expanding stage, crude birth rate also starts declining, and crude death rate is already declining. And then late stationary stage, crude birth rate is at stationary but low, and crude death rate is also low. And at declining stage, birth rate is low. Birth rate starts declining and death rate is normal, low. So, what is the topic? Demographic gap. Here, how we can conclude the demographic gap? This is the gap. Demographic gap. So, it is minimum. Minimum in, you can see minimum it is in high stationary stage and low stationary stage. This is and this is minimum. So, first and fourth stage it is minimum. Then it is maximum in, where it is maximum? It is maximum in late early expanding stage. So it is minimum in late early expanding stage 2, and it is negative. It is negative here. Here it becomes negative. So it is stage 5. And it starts contract. Here you can see in the stage 3rd late expanding stage. Here it is high and it starts decreasing. So it starts contracting. So starts contracting in early stage 3 of late expanding stage. So early stage 3. So this was about the demographic gap. If we talk about transition, that is demographic transition. What is demographic transition? Demographic transition when the country is at high stationary stage of CBR and CDR and it becomes low CBR and low CDR. It is demographic transition. Why it happens so? It happens in only developed countries. Why? Because if it is developed, there will be many hospitals and doctors, so there will be low death rate. So death rate starts declining and there will be low birth rate. So because there will be many barriers and literate people can understand one child, maybe 2 child. So it will be low. So this was the about the demographic gap and also demographic transition. Next. So now next is demographic fertility indicators. There are so many demographic fertility indicators, but we will talk about the main three, which are TFR, GRR, and RR. This is total fertility rate. GRR is gross reproductive rate, and NRR is net reproductive rate. Now we'll discuss one by one. These three definitions are mainly used. So TFR is total fertility rate, the number of children born to a woman in her entire life of reproductive age. Means total number of children born to a couple in her entire reproductive age. This is TFR. Now gross reproduction rate. Gross reproduction rate is total number of girl child born to a woman. Total number of girl child born to a woman in her entire reproductive age. It is GRR. Now next the NRR, net reproduction rate. It is same as GRR, that is total number of girl children born to a woman in her entire reproductive age. But how is it different from GRR? In this, mortality is taking into the account, means how many girl child is alive. So this was about the demographic fertility indicators. These are the main three indicators. So next, which is very important, is sex ratio. There is one formula to calculate sex ratio, which is sex ratio is equals number of females upon number of males into 1000. This is the formula for calculating sex ratio. If we talk about the India we have sex ratio 943. 943, it is the number of females, 943 females per 1000 male, which is very less. If it is less than 1000, then it is unfavorable sex ratio. And if it is more than 1000, then it is favorable sex ratio. So why India has unfavorable sex ratio? Because of the female infanticide, female feticides. So that's why India has unfavorable sex ratio. Then if we talk about highest sex ratio. Highest sex ratio according to Union Territory, it is Daman and Diu. Sorry. Highest sex ratio, it is Kerala and also Pondicherry. Kerala has 1084 sex ratio. And if we talk about lowest sex ratio, according to Union Territory, it is Daman and Diu. which is 680. And according to states, it is Haryana. Haryana has lowest sex ratio. So this is about the sex ratio. Now we will come to the literacy rate. So the next and the last important topic is literacy rate. Literacy rate we can calculate by the formula. Literacy rate is equals to number of literates upon the number of total population, which is equals to or above 7 years. We will not conclude below 7 years children because we will not conclude them in literate category. Okay, so literacy rate is equals to number of literates upon the total population, which is equals to or above the 7 years into 100. This is the formula for calculating literacy rate. So highest literacy rate in India. If we talk about India, the highest literacy rate is in Kerala. And if we talk about lowest literacy rate, then it is Bihar. And by the percentage, literacy rate is 74%. In India, literacy rate is 74%. But if we talk individually for male and female, then the male has 82% of literacy rate and female has 65% of literacy rate. It is in India. So this is about the literacy rate. And one more thing, literate. What is the meaning literate? Literate, in this we will include the person who can read, write and understand any one language. So anyone who can read, write and understand any one language, who he or she can be called as literate. So this is it with my topic demography. Thanks for watching.